This is a plan of the Battle of Tsushima of May 1905, a decisive naval battle in which the Japanese annihilated a Russian fleet and effectively ended the Russo-Japanese War. This was the first battle in which wireless telegraphy played a major part. It demonstrated the power of the all-big-gun battleship, leading to HMS Dreadnought of 1906 and the Anglo-German Dreadnought race. It was the first time a modern battleship was sunk by guns. It was the first and last decisive steel battleship action. It was the first modern defeat of a great European power by an Asian nation, and arguably the battle that made both the First World War more likely and another great fleet action less likely. This plan was made by William Packenham, a British naval officer then attached to the Japanese fleet. Packenham witnessed the events firsthand from the decks of the battleship Asahi. The Japanese fleet is shown in black. They start to the northeast. The Russians are in red, to the southwest. At midday, the Japanese fleet is cruising towards the southeast. They hear reports of the Russians cruising in two columns to their southwest. At 12:45, they alter course and steer due west. Then, at 1:30, alter course to bring the two fleets together. When the Russian fleet is sighted on their starboard bow, the Japanese alter course to the northwest to target the weaker Russian vessels in their port column. It is at this point that the Japanese Admiral Togo is said to have made his signal, "The fate of our empire depends on our efforts. Let every man do his utmost." Action is sounded. At 2:05, the Japanese turn south to threaten the weaker port column of Russian ships. Meanwhile, the Russian starboard column turns in succession to protect them. At 2:07, the Russians open fire on one ship, Togo's flagship, the battleship Mikasa. The Japanese hold their fire. 2:10, the Japanese turn in succession onto a parallel course and open fire, the Russians shelling the turning point. 2:25, the Russian battleship Oslabaya leaves the line, on fire and filling with water. The smaller Russian vessels and transports also leave the line for protection. At 2:45, the range was reduced to 4,600 metres. The Russian battleships Alexander and Sisoi are on fire. The Japanese cease firing. 3 o'clock. Now the Russians try and escape to the north. The Japanese turn together to the northeast and then again to the northwest to stop the Russians from escaping and to keep them engaged. 3:10. Oslabaya sinks. It's the first time a modern armoured warship has been sunk by gunfire alone. The Japanese open fire again, range now just 4,100 metres. The leading Russian battleship is forced out of the line. She is replaced by the Alexander, which turns and heads straight for the Japanese line. From now on, the Russians lose formation, turning this way and that. At 3:27, the Japanese cease fire, turn, and then turn again to follow the Russians. At 4, the Japanese turn once more to the north and open fire. The Russians respond by turning to port, heading once again for the Japanese, but then swiftly turning away and running to the south. The Japanese follow, still firing. At 4:35, the Japanese cease firing and then divert course, twice. It is not clear why Togo briefly diverted from his route, parallel with the Russian fleet. At 5:05, the Russians, in no formation, suddenly turn to port, head north and open fire. The Japanese return fire, forcing the Russians to run to the west and then the north. The Japanese chase, the fleets firing broadside to broadside. The Russians are now close to the setting sun, difficult to see in the haze. At 7:18, the battleship Borodino suffers a major hit and sinks 12 minutes later. At 7:30, in mist and darkness, the action pauses. Around 8 p.m, the Japanese send in 21 destroyers and 37 torpedo boats to harass and destroy the Russian fleet. When the final count comes in, the Russians have lost 8 battleships and more than 5,000 men, while the Japanese have lost 116 men and only 3 torpedo boats in one of the most decisive naval battles in history.